couple minutes and I'll be ready.
Ooh, look at those beautiful waffles.
Hi, I'm Chef Emm with Cooking Canvas. Today for the 2020 Cook County Food Summit, I bring to you a different take on chicken and waffles. We're gonna make cauliflower and butternut squaffles with a side of mixed greens, cantaloupe sorbet for dessert. To start off, we're going to make a honey syrup. Half a cup of water, a half a cup of honey. To make a syrup, it's 1 part something sweet, sugar, honey, agave syrup, and 1 part water. Add these 2 things into our sauce pot here. We just need to blend these together. And then we'll bring them to a nice simmer. And we need to freeze our cantaloupe. Peel this skin off the melon first. And then I'm gonna cut it in half. And like I said, we only need about half of it. We'll take these seeds out. This cantaloupe came from Black Oaks Farm. The honey and the syrup should be sizzling a little bit. And we wanna make sure that the honey and the water are combined. Once they're combined, we're gonna turn this pot off because we don't need it boiling, because then the sugars in the honey will start to crystallize and we don't want that. Now I'm gonna take the side of my knife and go along the side of this melon. Get as much green off as you can. And then I'll just stand the cantaloupe up just a little bit to trim off this top. And then we're just going to dice our melon. Pop it on parchment paper lined baking sheet and pop it in the freezer. And it needs to freeze for about 2 hours. That's the key to this sorbet, the frozen cantaloupe. While that's freezing, start on the batter for our butternut squaffles. This is a 5-pound squash, also from Black Oaks Farm. We won't need this whole thing. We need about 1.5 cups of the squash. We're gonna puree this, so we're gonna pop it in our blender or food processor, whichever one. Now in a large bowl, we're going to take our oat flour, 2.5 cups of oat flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and half a teaspoon of allspice. I'm gonna mix these together. We'll have our 1/4 cup of honey syrup, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. We'll mix that with our milk. And we have 2 eggs. Separate these eggs so that our yolks and our whites are not together. We'll add that to our syrup. We'll add our milk to our honey syrup. We'll take a 1/4 cup of oil. And we also want to take our 1 1/4 cup of butternut puree. And we'll mix all of these nice little wet ingredients together. And then we'll just pour all of that right in. And we're going to mix it just until it's combined. So no clumps of the oat flour, no clumps of butternut squash is what you're looking for. And now we want to whip these to medium peak. For this, we're going to use the wire whisk. Add them into our nice bowl. What we want when it comes to stiff peak is a peak that stands up. So you see how it stands? That's what we want. And this one you want to kind of fold in, literally fold it. Being careful not to deflate the eggs that you just fluffed up. And we'll want to fold this in just until it's combined. Okay, and then we're going to let this sit while we finish working on our greens and getting our cauliflower in the oven. So we'll break down these greens. We're pretty much just trimming the stems off. And I have maybe about 1 pound of each of the types of greens. And in this recipe, we're gonna add some onion and some garlic and celery. And we're gonna saute them first to give our dish some good flavor. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of oil to our skillet, half of a white onion. You see, you can hear that sizzle already. And then 2 cloves of garlic. And I just use 1 stalk of celery. Now, once we have our onions and our garlic, but they're almost caramelized, but not quite, we'll add our greens. And at this same time, we're gonna add water. We'll add our paprika, about 1 teaspoon of salt, and another teaspoon of pepper. And this is gonna have to sit and simmer for about 30-45 minutes. So while that's going, we will get our chicken flour in the oven. We're just gonna break this down, pull all the leaves off, and then we're gonna cut these florets out. Now that we have our chicken flour, we're going to dip it in some wet ingredients. 3/4 cup of oat flour, 1.5 cups of milk. We're gonna add 1/4 cup of oil, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of lemon pepper, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and we're gonna mix all of that together, and this is gonna be our wet ingredients. And then our dry ingredients. 3/4 cup of cornmeal, 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs, a teaspoon of garlic powder, just a dash of salt, a little squeeze of lemon. And you see I've kind of layered my seasonings, and I preheated my oven to 375. We're gonna coat these and bake it for about 15-20 minutes until they're nice golden brown and the edges have crisped up. And by then the center should be tender as well. Now we're gonna move on to our butternut squaffles. And I'm just gonna scoop out a cup of batter. My waffle maker, I just pour batter on. And this is a 4 count. And I usually spread mine so that it doesn't ooze out over the sides. And this recipe will probably give you about 10 waffles. And then we'll close our waffle maker and give that just a few minutes. And it's been just about 2 hours. So our cantaloupe sorbet will be just about ready. So we'll take our nice frozen cantaloupe. Can you guys see how nicely that's frozen? Frozen cantaloupe into our food processor. And we'll dump this out into a bowl just to make it easier to scoop. Ooh, you see that lusciousness? And we'll check on our chicken flour, see how that's working. Ooh, there we go. Hey, that's good. It's just about where I want it. Let's check our greens. Ooh, yes, that's perfect. Look at those beautiful waffles. People will say, well, what's your specialty? I like food, all types of food. The kitchen has always been one of my favorite places in a house. Thank you for joining us at the 2020 Virtual Food Summit. Today we did our chicken flour butternut squaffles with a side of mixed greens, and of course for dessert, our cantaloupe sorbet. Look forward to cooking with you soon. I'm Chef Emm from Cooking Canvas.